is Justin with Project SLC, and you're listening to I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
Jake from Street Sweets and Eats, Utah's sweetest food truck, and you're listening to the I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
My name is Jeffrey. I'm the community manager for Yelp here in Salt Lake City, and you're listening to the I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
Thank you so much, Salt Lake City. Welcome to the I Am Salt Lake Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hollifield. This is episode 28. And thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule. I know it's a few days before Christmas, so thank you so much for downloading us or streaming us online and taking a listen to this episode of the I Am Salt Lake Podcast. This episode, I had an opportunity to sit down with Ben Bolte over at the Downtown Salt Lake Alliance. He is working on a bike share program, the SLC Bike Share. And we had an opportunity to sit down one evening at the Clementine shop after hours, talk about the Salt Lake City Bike Share that will be hitting the streets of Salt Lake about March, and talked all about kind of how it started and what to expect from it. So thank you very much, Ben, for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to talk to us. If you haven't hit us up on the internet, iamsaltlake.com. That's going to connect you with all the episodes of the podcast, as well as all your opportunities to get in touch with us. Our voicemail line is 385-202-5926. Please call us up and give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show. And hey, if you want to be a guest on the show, let me know as well. Drop me a voicemail or an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Love to get you on the schedule. Love to bring you on. Love to share your story with beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. And anyways, I'm going to quit talking now, and I'm going to jump right into the conversation that I had with Ben at the Clementine shop after hours, as we talked about the Salt Lake City Bike Share and a little bit about the Downtown Alliance as well. So thanks a lot for listening to the I Am Salt Lake Podcast. I got Ben Bolte, right? Yes. Correct? From you work with the Downtown Alliance, but you're the director of the Green Bike SLC Bike Share, which I want to get into, and I'm sure I got more questions than you have answers for.
Yeah, it's a four-way partnership between the Salt Lake Chamber, the Downtown Alliance, Salt Lake City government, sponsors. This project started because Mayor Becker started seeing them pop up in Europe, these sort of newer versions of a bike share program, because the original ones were this thing that like Portland did, or they did maybe 60 years ago in London, where they'd get a bunch of kind of clunker bikes, paint them all the same color, and just release them into the populace. And if you find it, you ride it, you leave it wherever, let somebody else ride it. And as you can imagine, that doesn't really work that well, because people will steal it and nobody's maintaining it. Usually they all end up in a river or jacked within the first couple of days. And so then 2007, they see Paris do this like 20,000 bike with some GPS stuff and mobile apps, and it's a new level of technology with it. So Becker sees that, and then in 2010, they start seeing it in the United States. So in like Denver, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis. I was working for the Salt Lake City Transportation Division at that time, and this was just a research project.
I mean, Mayor Ralph Becker, he's a pretty avid biker then. I mean, from what I can tell and certain things. So he brings this idea to you. Yeah, so to kind of work on it.
Yeah, he just basically tasks the Salt Lake City Transportation Division, because a lot of people don't know that city governments have their own little branches. You have Community and Economic Development, but then you also have a Utah Community and Economic Development. You have State Department of Transportation and the City Department of Transportation. So I was working for the city one, and Mayor Becker saw that because that's only his jurisdiction. They said, how do we get this? How does this work? What's the model?
So this was before you came over to the Downtown Alliance?
Yes.
Then? And so then
2010.
And what brought you over to the Downtown Alliance, working on this project?
Yeah, so I was working on a few different things for the bicycle coordinator, Becker Rolfe, who's still there. I was just the only one doing research on this. It just was this really, really cool thing. We had the two big companies come down and do a little demo in Library Square.
The two big companies
that make bike share stuff.
Okay.
I always describe them as like the Coke and Pepsi of bike share equipment. Like I said, nobody did it in the U.S. before 2010, so now you have about a dozen to 15 cities using the equipment of these two companies, and then like a couple little...
And these companies are outside of Utah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one is made by, like Trek put it together, and the other one's like the Canadian Transportation Authority that sort of manufactured these, and that's the bikes that are in D.C. and Minneapolis and Boston. And then this one that Trek makes called B-Cycle, and they package the bikes, the stations, the solar panels, the internet, however they want to do the website and cell connection stuff. And then you buy it as a city or as a nonprofit or whatever, or there can be a for-profit company. There's like a million different ways you can do it. It's so much more complicated than when the mayor just said like, oh, look into it. And then it started taking up so much time. We put out an RFP that I wrote. The transportation director at the time just walks me across the street to the Downtown Alliance, who a lot of people aren't familiar with, but has its fingers in like everything in Salt Lake, like downtown. So you see them on the banners. You see them on Main Street. There are huge logos of it. They do the farmers market.
The Downtown Alliance. Yeah, okay.
So they do all these projects that are not quite government, but work a lot with them, this nonprofit element. They're also part of the Salt Lake Chamber, so it's the business community. And basically said to the Downtown Alliance, this is Tim Harpst, the transportation director, here's this project. Are you guys at all interested in taking this on as a lead? We don't really have the resources to do it right now. And here's, if you're interested, here's $25,000 in Ben, and see what you guys can do. And I think they saw it as, what do we have to lose? Either it works or it doesn't. We'll see if we can raise some money, see what happens, and kind of let Ben do his thing. And now we're here.
So you did your thing. So you said a few different companies kind of proposed their bike share program. Why did you decide on the one that you did? Because I'm assuming one has been decided because it's going to launch in March, right?
Yeah, into March, early April, right at the beginning of spring, as soon as it warms up. Well, we looked at these two companies that weren't necessarily proposing one to us.
Okay.
We put out an RFP to them saying, like, we're interested in a bike share program. You guys seem to be the, NBA of this. What would it take? How much money does it cost? What are the different things that we would have to do? We get the results back. And usually when you put out an RFP, there's like some money. Like you have a budget, and we didn't. And so we get information back, and it's this like, I don't know what we're going to do. So we ended up choosing one company. Well, first we created a nonprofit because we thought that would be the best model. There are a few different ones. Like a for-profit company works in like Miami Beach. That only works because it's Miami Beach. Like we couldn't call them and say, hey, would you guys be interested in, launching a bike share program that's for profit here so you guys make money? Because they wouldn't. Because we have some hills, we've got weather issues. It just gets like out of control real quick with a lot of different things. We chose the one company because it was a little bit cheaper. We liked the equipment better. There were some functional things like they have a temporary kryptonite cable lock inside a basket. They are more willing to work with us customizing things. They have a more diverse product line. Trek makes them, which everybody liked. And there's reciprocity between cities. Your membership card in Salt Lake will work in Madison, Wisconsin, and it will work in Boulder, and it will work in Denver.
Really?
Yeah.
So,
Do you know how a bike share program works?
Well, and that's kind of where I wanted to jump on to the next thing is I'm sure people listening in are like, what the heck's a bike share?
Yes.
Okay, and I mean, you can go onto, you have the Facebook page, which I'll put the links on the iamsaltlake.com website, and we'll talk about those. Describe what it's going to look like, how it's going to work. I mean, you mentioned membership.
Yep.
How explain how it's going to work.
So the big difference between bike share and bike rental is bike rental, you go to a bike shop, you're getting one specific bike, and that's your thing for 24 hours, a weekend, however long you rented it for. You get it, either man or woman, road, mountain bike, commuter bike. It serves one purpose, and you got to take it with you all the time. Now, a bike share program is where you have these automated kiosks, and they're all over an urban area. So we're going to start off with around a dozen in downtown Salt Lake.
And like, where would you put one? I mean, like Gallivan Center?
Anywhere that you can think of
like
where
how much
there's
space,
going to be a lot of
like
people.
how many bikes is going to be in one?
Each one will have about 10 bikes.
Okay.
What happens is you have these stations all over a downtown area, And our smallest station, actually every single one we're starting with, is 13 of these bicycle docks. And so we start out each day with maybe 8 bicycles at each station, and that leaves 5 empty docks. So if nobody pulled it from that station, they can drop a bike off. Let's talk about like what it actually is first.
Yeah.
So the idea is you have these stations everywhere. Instead of driving your car for these short trips, because more than 50% of all car trips are under 3 miles, and most of those are under 2. Like, I don't begrudge anybody. Like, nobody's going to ride their bike in from Sandy. Most people won't. But if you're already downtown, this is going to be more convenient than trying to find a new parking spot. So you just pay for a membership, and you can use any bike anytime you want, return the bike to the same or any other station, and you just pay one membership price.
Which is going to be
24 hours, it'll be $5, and you can just walk right up to the kiosk and do that. Or for a week, it'll be $15. Or for a year, it'll be $75. That means you can use them anytime you want.
That's a great deal.
And we also give you a $70 Burn custom helmet that we designed for free. You can pick that up from a couple different places. And if you work for a station sponsor, a nonprofit, or Salt Lake City, then it's only $56 for a year. And it's a tax deduction and all this other stuff. But the idea is that you just pay one price, use them when you want. And they have automatic front and rear LED lights, basket. They're designed specifically for like getting around. And most people say, you know, I have a bike, you know, kudos to you. This is kind of like a cute idea, but I wouldn't use it. And then when I explain it to them, they're like, oh, that is different. It's the idea that you literally aren't worried about your bike getting stolen, that you can throw some takeout in the front. You don't have to wear separate clothes or bring like clip-on shoes or roll your pant legs up or anything. Like, you can wear dress clothes if you want. You're already downtown, and then you can just get around because it's easier that way.
And are they going to be, I saw pictures of like a green bicycle. I mean, do they have gears on them, or are they more?
Yeah, 3 speeds.
3 speeds.
Internal hub, which means that there's no delineator hanging on the outside. When you come to a stop, let's say you were going like 10 miles an hour or something, unless you were shifting down, you have to stand up on the pedals and push down really hard because you're in a lower gear. On these, you just twist, and all internal hubs have that. Those actually predate most, like the delineator style. Like my Gary Fisher over there has that.
What about like if you get a flat tire or something like that?
So we're actually going to have staff that goes around and checks the bicycles every day and checks for flats, does all the maintenance, keeps the bikes clean. And the tires, like the entire bike is built specifically for a bike share bike, knowing that it'll get more use. So they have like Kevlar in the tires. They have this goo stuff inside the tube. So if you got like a small leak, you wouldn't notice. And then we notice the next day. And they're all so close by that, I mean, it almost just, it never happens. Yeah. Like in Boulder, they started off with about the same, a dozen stations. And they literally said, we will call you a cab if you get a flat. And it just, because it never happened. It was more of like, just to ease your worry kind of a thing.
Which I'm sure for the most part, I mean, a lot of it, especially since it hasn't launched yet, a lot of it's going to be trial and error. And you mentioned Boulder, so there's quite a few cities already doing this. For examples, I mean, what would you say most major cities are already doing it, or how many?
Not most major, but
how many do you
a
think
lot of
are
12 to 15 cities right now have a functioning one up and running. And then I'd say another 40 are looking at doing it. And probably another, I'd say 15 of them, maybe 10 will launch next year. I mean, I get phone calls all the time.
Do you think it's really going to, I mean, I would like to see it obviously take off in our minds, but do you think people are really going to use it? I mean, do you?
Because I'm not a crazy bicycle person.
Okay.
Like, when I was working at the transportation division, I was doing that because I originally wanted to do, like, work at the Human Rights and Diversity office, at the mayor's office, but they weren't hiring. This bike thing was like, oh, I like bikes. I ride around. But I never really rode a bike for transportation that often. I just did it occasionally because I had liberal guilt and felt like I was supposed to. But it was a miserable experience for the most part because I was either doing it on my road bike or my mountain bike. And it's just like night and day different. It's like trying to go downhill skiing on cross-country skis or vice versa. It's awful. But if you have a bike that's made for that, like if you look at any of the bikes in Europe, I mean, that's just how they roll. That's what they do because it's easier than owning a car. It's cheaper, and it gets you from point A to point B. There's no maintenance cost. Yeah. But like a road bike, I mean, you're leaning over all the way. You feel every bump in the road because these tires are super thin. It's not comfortable, and it's not fun. You have to wear special clothes and clips and all this stuff, and you certainly can't. You'd have to put a backpack on. all this extra crap, and it just doesn't really work well. When I first rode these, and the little stuff where they were the deterrence of what I call like, the urban experience, where like, I don't want to carry my bike up a flight of stairs to my apartment. I don't want to put it in my car. This is too much of a hassle. I'm with friends now. I don't want to ride it. I just want to get a ride home. I wish I could just leave this here. I don't want it to get stolen. Oh crap, I need a light. All this extra stuff where you're like, I'm trying to just do what everybody keeps telling me to do, which is ride a bike instead of drive. It shouldn't be this hard.
So you mentioned, and you might have mentioned this already, it'll come with a padlock and all that stuff too, so if you want to go...
So what happens is you're really just going from station to station, and like you literally just click in to a station.
What if you need to go somewhere that's not a station, though?
So what we're trying to do is create an area like downtown to start with.
Yeah.
So, for example, DC has got 190, almost 200 of these stations everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you really just want them everywhere. But in the meantime, we do have a temporary cable lock, so it's a kryptonite lock inside the basket of the bicycle. If there's not a station nearby, you could, tie it to a pole or something. You wrap it around, and then there's a little key that you can pull out. Then nobody else can use it. The idea of bike share is that if you're not riding it at that moment, that bike is now available to someone else to use. If you've got it just chained in front of your office or at a restaurant, and then you decide to leave it there, well, nobody else can use it.
It's definitely an interesting concept. I mean, I'm sure people, like you said, DC's people that are moving here from other cities will probably latch on to it really quick. People here in Salt Lake, maybe not so much because they're not familiar with it.
I'm shocked about the amount of people downtown. Because we've done a ton of outreach stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's at like the UTA's Bike Bonanza or the Farmers Market or, even things like Rio Tinto's Auto Show. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's nice. I would use that.
Well, that's what I was kind of curious of. You mentioned, that's a cutesy idea. I was kind of curious, like, what are some of the remarks that you've gotten, some of the comments? Like you said, okay, I would use that. I mean, you're getting pretty positive feedback.
Overwhelmingly, it's people going like, are you kidding me? That's coming here? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, really, really, really excited. Like, oh, I saw this in Europe. I used this in Barcelona. Well, I saw this. Was this in Canada? Did I use this in Boston? Like, these places that they visited, and they're like, this is coming here? And then you're like, awesome. And
you mentioned you get a membership here. You can go to any other place that has
Not
it.
Not any other place yet.
That is with that.
With ours, so far, it's Boulder, Denver, and Madison.
Okay. But Denver, hey, that's close enough.
But so when I said those Coke and Pepsi of the bike share companies, B-Cycle, Coke, they have about 10 cities right now.
I gotcha.
But only 3 of them are doing that. This is the first year that they've ever done it because there's all this revenue sharing and profit, because somebody could go online and buy a Boulder Pass, and if the Boulder Pass is cheaper than the Denver Pass, they still need to work out the kinks so that nobody's getting ripped off.
I gotcha.
So it's a little more complicated than that, but at least there's the potential to do it in a lot more cities. So you just pay for a membership, and then you do as many 30-minute trips as you want, because the idea is that there's no 2 stations that are farther than 30 minutes apart. And if you want to keep the bike for a longer time, like you want to go to a restaurant, and there's no station nearby, then we charge you $1.50 every half hour after that, and then it just escalates.
I gotcha.
So the idea is just get from point A to point B.
You mentioned, you bike when you can. I mean, you're more of a downtown walker, or are you a pretty avid biker?
When I was working at the transportation division, or at least when I started, I was much less of a biker. I was more of a road biker, and I just ran a lot. I lived in Sugar House, and now, like, when I got the Downtown Alliance gig and this whole bike share thing, I just kind of I went all in with all my chips. So I sold my car, I moved downtown, like 4 blocks from my office. Nice. I either walk or bike everywhere, and because if I'm going to tell other people that this is an option, then I need to be able to do it myself, and I don't consider myself too extreme on one side or another politically. I always describe myself as a passionate moderate. I'm always like, if I can talk to people that are not bike enthusiasts and they understand. They're like, oh yeah, that would be nice, because we're not asking them to commute in on like 20 miles or from Sugar House, and it's not pleasant for them. I mean, if people want to do it, that's awesome.
Well, you take the tracks downtown, and then boom, you got a bike to get around after you take the tracks, and especially when Sugar House gets there.
Which is why we want UTA to give us some money to partner.
There you go.
Because it will benefit them a lot.
Why do you think, I mean, Salt Lake City is a pretty bicycle-friendly city, really.
Yeah, it's something like 13th. My buddy just posted something the other day on the Bike Share Facebook page. I forgot the numbers, but it's like 13th or 30th in the country.
Why do you think? I mean,
I don't know. Minneapolis is number one, and that weather is worse than ours.
Well, see, and that actually leads me to a huge question of, like, I was going to ask you, well, if you're an avid biker, it's because I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't own a bike right now. It's always in the back of my head. Oh, I should get a bike and really bike it, and especially
spend $1,000,
and especially down to the fact I live like 3 miles away from my job. Goes back to what you were saying, how close most people with their job, especially in Utah. But then the whole thing of winter time comes in.
Sure.
Where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't ride my bike in the winter. Or what if it rains? But then you see the people out there still riding in the winter.
Yeah, I call those hardcore folk. Like if it was raining or snowing right now, I'd have walked.
Yeah.
Or I'd have taken tracks up to 6th East and got off and walked down here with an umbrella.
Yeah.
It was nice enough outside that I just biked from work. Because my office is on 2nd East and 400 South, so it's really not that hard. And I don't mind that kind of stuff. But it was, if I would have kept my car, I would drive. It's just kind of that, everybody looks at their incentives, their pros and cons when you wake up in the morning. Like, if you have the option to do things, you will take the easier option. If you no longer have that option, you make the best of it, and then you go, oh, but the way I get people at least interested in the idea is I go, this is like giving yourself a 15 to 20% raise without your boss giving you any extra money.
Well, cars suck money from us. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money. Car payments, insurance, gas,
I had to sell my car just to stress.
Yeah.
Every time I drive, I'm like, if you ever go into a shop, it's $1,000. It's just to kill me.
Yeah.
I was a poli-sci major at the U, and one of the things I was always really, really interested in was salaries and wages. And so they've stayed pretty much stagnant since the 80s. Cost of living has gone up just like crazy. I mean, iPhones, all this stuff that nobody else had to have, but like we're expected to have. And there's kind of an interesting take on professional careers that didn't used to be considered professional careers, like physical therapist or something like that. Now people expect a much higher level of education for jobs that they didn't necessarily need that level of education to get, but they want it to be more professional.
Yeah.
But we don't pay those professions more to offset that cost of school. So we're making no money. but
we keep expecting more and more.
We want the best. We still want like the cream of the crop, but we don't want to pay them anything. So if you can live in an area where you can get to a grocery store and do all that stuff and by walking and it's not awful, or use these things like bikes, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And cities like it because parking infrastructure is so expensive, especially in a downtown area. Like, you have limited parking, just straight up. There is nowhere else to go.
Well, we're lucky, though, in Salt Lake for really, compared to other cities, parking is
Salt Lake has the best parking ever.
No, it really does. It really does.
No, I have a tattoo that the Downtown Alliance gave me. I have to say that every time. We have 30,000 parking stalls in downtown Salt Lake City.
But yet people still complain.
It's always the number one complaint on any of their. They do a Richter 7 big survey every year,
and people say,
and there's nothing you can do. It's just one of those things. Like, we're spoiled. In
or
Utah.
People that have to pay a couple of dollars to park. I mean, I used to live out on the East Coast, and you pay $10 for 15 minutes or something like that in New York.
It's craziness.
And it's probably even more than that now.
Oh, yeah. I hear all these horror stories about Boston, New York.
Yeah, and it's like...
We have it so good here. So good. And people just complain because I think it's easier to complain than actually look into something.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants a parking stall right in front of their bit, like wherever they want to go. They don't ever want to look around. And, if that myth can help people ride bikes more, I'm fine with that. But we do have our parking is fine. So
what would you say to somebody, I mean, say myself, if I wanted to get into riding a bike, obviously just get a bike and just do it. I mean, I guess there's really no, like, it's not like you have to really...
I think it's way harder. Like, everybody thinks everything is... I think we tend to oversimplify things. And then you actually have to make a decision about whatever the topic or the issue is. And it's always more complicated when it's your money and it's your time.
Yeah.
So... yeah, like there are certain kind of bikes that are going to be more help, and nobody really I had a couple people that I would just ask questions all the time as I was learning, like what kind of bike do I want? Is this more effective? Is this BS that, this little marketing thing, or is this actually helpful? I did a ton of research before I bought my bike. Or you can just buy one and then maybe you have a crappy experience. It's like a car or anything else.
Back to the bike share, what do you think the most challenging thing was with getting that?
Oh, it's always money.
Money.
Still is and will always be.
And is that kind of partially why the launch date is still a few months out? Because, I mean, I remember, because you had a booth at Craft Lake City, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that was one of the first times I saw it. I mean, because it seems like it's been, is that really what it's been, is just kind of trying to raise funds for it?
Oh,
is that kind
not
of
at that level.
What the delay was? Or
there was never a delay.
Okay.
We could have launched last year, but we would have launched towards the end of the year. And it seemed silly to launch with like a 2-month season.
I got you. So you want to make more spring when people back to the winter thing,
get
where
a full
it's like,
season.
okay, I got
we'll
it.
take the stations down at the end of November, like early December, and because there just wouldn't be enough people using them, and then bring them back out at the end of March. So a full season is about 9 months, and there isn't really a point of trying to launch an entire system for 6 weeks or something. And there's a delay on when we order the equipment and when it's obviously gets here. So it's about 6 months from when we actually place an order for bikes, because we're getting custom bikes made with a specific color and branding and all this stuff. It takes a lot longer, and then you have all these other issues to overcome. Yeah. So in January, we're actually flying way fast, like way faster than any of the other cities.
Okay, yeah, and
So in January 2011, we had that like $20,000, and now we've got close to $500,000-$600,000 in sponsorships, and then the city's helped a little bit, and I mean we're able to buy 11 of these stations and over 100 bikes, and they're here. Like, we ordered them months ago, and so now it's just getting everything else in place. Like, the website's up in February. I mean, New York is getting put off due to Hurricane Sandy. Like, we're lucking out huge and just flying totally under the radar, just getting it done.
What just back to kind of I think I mentioned, I don't know if we were talking about this before we started recording or after. You mentioned how you've lived in Salt Lake your whole life.
Yes.
I mean, what are some of your favorite things about Salt Lake? What do you like about Salt Lake?
I am so crazy downtown
outside of
now.
Outside of the bike share thing. I mean, what is some of your favorite things about?
I don't know. I was like everybody else. I did 12 years in Catholic school.
Okay.
In Salt Lake City. Like a lot of my friends, I complained. I was like, oh, Salt Lake's awful, or Utah's lame. And then it's only been within about the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years that I've really done a complete 180, to the point now where I have to stop myself in bars occasionally where, a tourist says, where's the covered wagon? I'm like, get out.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things. I like the shift in culture. I like that specifically downtown has gotten more. There are these like restaurants and people that care about things, and it's younger people. And like, if you go on Google Maps, like right now, City Creek and all those things are not even there. It's just under construction. You can only see dust and stuff.
Really?
And so the fact that it's changed that quickly in Main Street, and you've got, I only used to go to the Bayou. Now you got all this stuff downtown.
It really is. I mean, it's Salt Lake City is coming together, and I find more and more people, like you said, with Salt Lake City pride. And it's like they're not ashamed to say, hey, you know what, I live in Salt Lake City.
I didn't exist when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I'm 29, and when I was in high school, it was like, no, that. But now, like, my stepbrother...
I got to get the heck out of Salt Lake City, you know?
Oh, yeah. Would phrase it differently with much more expletives. I don't know what kind of podcast this is.
No.
So, my stepbrother, when he was in high school just like a year or two ago, and the farmer's market is cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that is cool. Recycling is cool. Riding your bike is cool. Just the shift in 10 years, 5 years, it's crazy.
Do you think, though, that's kind of happening all over, or do you see that more in Salt Lake City? I mean, you've gone to some other cities. I think it's kind of happening in other cities, though,
sure.
too.
I think it's crazy, though, because Salt Lake County is the most Republican county in the country. Like, I can't remember. I think I heard it on Radio from Hell. I heard Kerry
Republican
talking about
or Democrat? I thought it was more Democrat, wasn't it? Or?
No, the county.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it's not Salt Lake County. It was Utah County.
Utah. Well, Utah County.
That's Salt Lake City always has a
Utah County's a whole nother world down there.
But yeah, you could live in this super red state, and Salt Lake City is just it's crazy liberal, but everybody gets along extremely well together.
Yeah.
Like, that's another great thing that I've learned at the Alliance is it has dispelled any misconceptions I've ever had about a lot of conservatives. Yeah, I think that there are so many, you only ever hear, whether it's national politics or whatever party that you lean towards, you only hear about the crazies on the ones that you don't like. But the overwhelming majority of any group is incredibly decent, means well, trying to make their city better, their state better, their country better. And I've met so many great people. And it's completely changed. It's so much easier to just kind of like backseat quarterback. But then when you actually meet, you're like, oh, these things are complicated, and these people are trying to help, and everybody just works together. The Chamber and the Salt Lake Downtown Alliance work together a lot on immigration issues, which is really, really cool. This is so off topic of bike share, but
no, and that's what we're here for. I mean, this is a podcast about everything Salt Lake City, and I mean, obviously, with the bike share, but I mean, you work with it every day. You're with the Downtown Alliance. I mean, you're seeing the growth happen in Salt Lake City. You're seeing the city shift. I mean, one of the craziest things I saw happen that I never thought I would see happen was the ending of private clubs.
Right.
I mean, that was something that was just like, wow. And I genuinely believe, even, people say, okay, our alcohol here, our liquor, I don't think anybody really means for it to be bad. Like, okay, we're going to put these laws and rules down to make your life worse.
No, of course not.
I think a lot of people, they don't really understand a lot of it, really. I think a lot of the people, and so I think, I don't really know where I'm going with this thought, but we have, I mean, our city, Salt Lake City, I've lived in other cities, and we have it a lot better when it comes to, like, bars and alcohol and stuff going on, and people are so quick to complain that, oh, Salt Lake City, there's nothing to do in Salt Lake. Oh,
yeah. No, I like the pride that people have.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was my little rambling, but
no, it's not rambling.
No. It really isn't. And seeing, with my wife's shop here, the shop, the local shopping. The pride in that, I mean, it's amazing. Besides doing bike share, I mean, tell me a little bit about Ben. I mean, what are some of your other hobbies and interests? Besides,
I've been pretty bike share centric for the past.
That's pretty much consumed you.
Oh yeah, like answering emails at 8 in the morning or 8 at night. It doesn't even matter. I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to work on something that I personally think is really, really beneficial to the community and something that I would use. I don't feel like a lot of people get that opportunity to work on a project or in a capacity for something that they would want to use for themselves. I feel like people, and I could be dead wrong, but I feel like a lot of people have to take jobs because you need a job. And I've had to do that a lot too. But to get to do something where you're kind of the driving force of it, and you think, okay, this is exactly how I think this will benefit a lot of people, and be able to kind of make that happen. But it's terrifying. There's so many different things that are constantly moving, and you're just trying to learn the political landscape and what's the best way to fundraise and how do I do this, and then you just kind of learn as you go, and you get support from everybody when you can. So yeah, like, I really haven't done much else over the past year and a half.
Tell me something about yourself that people listening in probably wouldn't expect from somebody like you. Or
I am 5'5". No, I'm just kidding. That's accurate, but that's probably, I have no idea. Dark Knight was awesome.
What a guilty pleasure.
I've got tons of them.
I mean, a guilty pleasure band or movies or something. I mean,
guilty pleasure band. I went to a Nickelback concert, and that was awesome. I think if
I would have found that out at the beginning of this, I would have just said,
right?
Interview's over.
I know. You said guilty pleasure. I thought it was the most embarrassing thing I could think of. Was
that here in Salt Lake? You went to Nickelback?
Yeah, I was out at USonic Amphitheater maybe like 4
and I'm hoping you got
5
free
years
tickets
ago.
Or no?
No, I totally paid. But I also paid, that was like $30 or something, and I paid the year before maybe like $200 to see Tool perform.
Okay.
Like in like the third row or something. Because Tool is my favorite band.
You saved yourself.
But yeah, so I guess that would be the juxtaposition between the fact that I enjoy me some Nickelback on my running mix and Tool is my favorite band of all time would show that there is some internal struggle. Man,
I can't Nickelback that. That's a rough one. So, people listening in, where can they get more information about Bike Share?
They can go to facebook.com/SLC Bike Share. We've got about almost 1,200 people following a project that doesn't even exist yet, which I think is pretty great.
Yeah.
And then the website will be greenbikeslc.org, and you can actually type that in now, and it takes you to the Downtown Alliance's page and has our press release from the announcement last year, or I guess it was earlier this year in June, and a little KSL did such a great story on it where it almost it looked like we must have paid them. Like they were just so flattering about it. Literally is cut to, reporter on the scene, cut back to the officer like, well, I tell you what, I just used this in Denver and it's fantastic. This is just great.
And that's on the that's on the Facebook page or the Downtown?
It's on both.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a little video or something.
Yeah, it's just a news clip from Channel 5 News.
I'll have to watch it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's like we couldn't have made this better if it was an SNL sketch and we just sculpted it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where people actually go, "Oh, I would use this. That's nice." So, yeah, I enjoy it.
So, because they can find it, is there like a specific launch date, or are you just saying March of 2013 right now?
Yeah, it's late March, early April 2013.
Kind of a party or anything planned? Or
we got a few different things planned, but we're still working out the details. We're going to do definitely something at Squatters, like a fundraiser kind of thing that we did. Anybody that went to the farmers market party this year, it's going to be a lot like that. Silent auctions, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
There's going to be. I want to work with Andrea Walker-Bravo, who's the executive director of Utah Society for Environmental Education.
Okay.
She had some ideas on fun little ways that we could make a fundraiser, a big event where people go from station to station and they have a little ambassador at each one explaining a different aspect of Utah's environment. We'll just make it a party.
Well, awesome. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a program that's going to thrive. I mean, obviously, you don't really. It's hard to determine where it's going to be in 5 years. I mean, do you see it expanding to Provo
yes.
and Ogden and
that's
West
the other
Valley?
thing.
And
I'm working on a few different scenarios. You got the one that you got money for now.
Yeah.
You've got your realistic expansion plans with just sponsorships and the regular money coming in, and then you've got 3, 4, 5 different grant proposals through either UTA or EPA and any of those can completely change the game. And I've already got maps laid out of where we would get to with 30, 40, 60 stations, and it's crazy different. I know you're servicing so many more people. We're creating a way that all of the low-income housing stuff on 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th East in between like 4th and 9th South, if we're putting stations over there and creating a really dense downtown network of these bike share stations, then nobody there needs a car.
Yeah.
And so it's just an easier way for them to get around. And then you can get to tracks a lot easier. If you're a mile away from tracks and you have one of these stations near every track stop that you're trying to get off at and one near your house because you live downtown, it just makes it that much easier. Working on a pass where the UTA Tap-It Pass works the same as ours. So we send you a membership card in the mail if you're an annual member, and you can literally just walk up to any of the bicycles at any of the stations. You just tap it, this light turns on, you pull the bike out, that's it.
I think this is going to cut down on traffic too.
Oh, and they have GPS on all of them, so it's like funding a big study.
So the ones coming out in March will have GPS on it too? Excellent.
So we'll be able to see not only in real time where all of the bikes are, and so can the user. You download a free app and you can see how many bikes and docks are available at each station. It's like funding a large study. So we see what kind of, is it male, female? Are they using it for errands? Are they just trying to ride around a little bit at work? Are they going to lunch? Are they trying to do a commute? Are they connecting to light rail? And because of that data, we'll be able to tell in probably the first month or two whether or not we have the station configurations right. And we can make them bigger or smaller, move them around a little bit if they're not working. And we don't have to dig into the ground, so you just plop them down and call it a day.
So can people sign up now for memberships, or is it kind of waiting?
Not yet. The website should be up in February.
Okay, I didn't know if maybe on the Facebook page. I peeked around a little bit on there, but I didn't really. Any other events? I know Eve is coming up with Downtown Alliance. I mean, any other events coming up, or any other things at Downtown Alliance or is it everything else kind of top secret?
No, there's the top secret stuff. I'm pretty sure the Cutthroat has helped me to divulge enough top secret information tonight. If you go to the Downtown Alliance site at downtownslc.org, you can find information about pop-up markets. So if you're needing your fix between next year's farmers market, we have little ones popping up every couple of weeks, every month. Eve is obviously the 29th, 30th, and 31st. It's going to be mostly at Gallivan Center this year, but there's going to be a lot of indoor stuff and a VIP area on that second floor. Casey Jarman, the same guy that does the Twilight concert series, is going to be in charge of all the music this year. So you're going to get some really cool bands. And it's, I believe, $15 for 10 different venues in 3 days. The one I'm really excited about is the Leonardo, which I'm going to tomorrow. It's like a $15 ticket just to get into Leonardo. But with your Eve ticket, you buy that, for 3 days or whatever, one ticket. You can get into the Leonardo any of those days too.
Really?
Yeah, so there have been a bunch of new places like that, like Discovery Gateway, and you can go and see the light shows, like the Led Zeppelin one. A lot of people don't know about it. They still think, was it first night? Was it a first night thing? It's like, no, it was way better. Like that. Last year was, totally honest, it was my first year I was working it or volunteering. It is really, really cool. That one was more at the convention center. Yeah, they had these American Express beach balls that were all blown up, 2,012 of them, and they're just flying around. It's really fun. Well,
excellent. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. If anything else you want to add before we close this up,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm eager to try the bikes out now, and
it's going to be fun.
And ride around downtown. I think it's definitely a cool addition to Salt Lake City. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming onto the podcast and sharing your story, or sharing the story about the SLC Bike Share, what we can kind of expect as that unrolls and unravels and unveils itself March 2013. So here in a couple of months, make sure you go on over to Facebook and like the page, facebook.com/SLC Bike Share. Like them, leave a comment, say, hey, you know what, Ben? I heard you on the I Am Salt Lake podcast, and I think this is a great addition for Salt Lake City. And hey, when it comes around in March, take a spin. Let's go for a ride. I'm excited to take a ride and check it out. So anyways, SLC Bike Share over there on Facebook. And I'm going to put all the links at iamsaltlake.com/episode 28. It's going to give you all the links with the Downtown Alliance, SLC Bike Share, and all the information regarding that. So anyways, if you do want to be a guest on the show, I cannot stress you enough, drop me an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. I'd love to bring you on and have you share your story with the rest of Salt Lake City. We also do have a voicemail, 385-202-5926. Share your story. I'll get back with you, and I'll love to get you on the calendar for a future episode. Speaking of guests on the show, if you guys remember back in episode 22, I sat down with Jenny Shirley over at Stitched Cards. Right now, she is in the process. She's kind of midway through her Kickstarter, and she's trying to raise $7,000. She wants to have that completed by the morning of January 5th, 2013. She wants to raise $7,000. It's an amount known in the industry, in her card industry, to be the average cost to fund this type of project. Basically, it's to help her get to the National Stationery Show there in New York City. And I believe it's in May that she's going to be doing this. So backers get to choose from a variety of her card designs, new products that she intends to showcase at the National Stationery Show. And each product corresponds with a dollar amount pledged toward the production of the products and outfitting a booth at the trade show. Basically, what I need you to do is go over to her Kickstarter page, watch the video that she's created, and this is how, this is a really wonderful project that she has going on. Check out her Kickstarter campaign. I made a really easy link to get there. Just go to iamsaltlake.com/cards, CARDS, iamsaltlake.com/cards. That's going to basically forward you on right over to the Kickstarter page. Check it out. Read her story. I think she's got a really great thing going. So, Jenny over at Stitched Cards, love what you're doing, and I hope you get to New York City because you really got a great thing going. And thank you again for coming on to the podcast. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, go to iamsaltlake.com/episode 22. Listen to the conversation that I had with Jenny Shirley, and download it, share it with a friend. Hey, it would really mean a lot to me if you guys would all just take a split second, go on over to the iTunes page. You can connect with that at the iamsaltlake.com page. Click on that iTunes page. Leave us a tiny review. It helps us get in front of more people. It helps it so we get exposed to more people and more people check out the podcast and everybody wins. And leave a comment there. We also have a donate button, iamsaltlake.com/donate. Kick on over $1 or $2. It helps keep the project going. For those of you that have donated a couple of dollars, it really means a lot to me that people care that much about this podcast that they're willing to do that. So anyways, I think that's going to about do it today. Remember to go to iamsaltlake.com/cards, check out the Kickstarter page, and pledge some money because it would be fun to see Jenny get to New York City at the National Stationery Show there in May. So anyways, if you want to be a guest on the show, I am saltlake@gmail.com, voicemail 385-202-5926. Also, I kind of want to start playing a song or two on each podcast from a local band, even if they're not interviewed on that episode. So if you're a local band and you would like to get your music on the podcast, feel free to send me a link or send me a CD, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Let me know that it's okay to play your music on this podcast. Again, I'm just looking for local music here in the Salt Lake City area, Provo area, Ogden area, wherever, just kind of in the surrounding area. I'd love to start playing some music. So with this being so close to Christmas, I'm going to play a song by Michael Gross and the Statuettes. It's called It's Christmas Time. It's a great Christmas song. We're going to close out the show with that. And remember, I'm going to be back on Wednesday. It's going to be the day after Christmas, so be sure to check it back then as we showcase another individual, another musician, and another, just somebody doing some really awesome stuff here in Salt Lake City. So until then, this is Chris Hollifield. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to listen to the I Am Salt Lake podcast. You guys have a great evening.
Underneath bright city lights, everything's alright for a change.